one David Batista, suing him for sexual harassment.
Now, there have been a number of WWE storylines and characters throughout the years that have, well, simply gone too far. Storylines such as Katie Vick, CM Punk pouring Paul Bearer's ashes onto The Undertaker, and even WWE using Eddie Guerrero's passing for a storyline have all been established as some of the worst instances of WWE going above a respectable threshold with a storyline.
Ray, you're looking up towards the heavens like you're looking at Eddie. Let me tell you something, though. Eddie ain't in heaven. Eddie's down there in hell.
It isn't just throughout the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression Era where inappropriate storylines were prominent, as believe it or not, there are a number of risque storylines which have actually taken place during the confines of a PG product. But which times were they? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 times WWE went too far. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10. Dr. Heine. On October 24th, 2005 edition of Raw, WWE would air a segment which was designed to humiliate Jim Ross. JR had recently undergone colon surgery, and as a result he was at home recovering instead of calling Raw. In a 7-minute segment, Vince McMahon would pose as Dr. Heine, and he would pretend to pull various items out of JR's behind. Fans felt that this was incredibly distasteful and had no place whatsoever on the show. According to Bruce Pritchard, the segment was done out of love for JR, however fans and JR himself are still trying to see how it was done out of love. JR would discuss the segment on a Talk Is Jericho podcast in 2020 and revealed that Vince McMahon called him before the segment was due to air, promising him that WWE would be doing something special for him on Raw. However, JR never expected to be something of this nature.
JR, we've solved the problem. You've had your head up your ass.
Number 9. The humiliation of Al Wilson. The storyline surrounding Al Wilson dominated SmackDown in late 2002. It was a storyline which involved Dawn Marie falling for Al, who just so happened to be the father of Tori Wilson, her real-life father. Now, a lot of time and effort was put into the storyline, but it never truly took off, as there wasn't too much fan interest. The storyline officially went too far when it was revealed that Al had passed away. However, he just didn't pass away from natural causes. WWE revealed that Al had passed away from doing too much in the bedroom, and this caused him to have a fatal heart attack. The storyline though didn't stop there, as the feud between Dawn and Tori continued. WWE would produce a segment which involved a funeral service for Al. Tori would slap Dawn across the face, leading to Dawn falling into the casket and the casket almost tipping over. It was in incredibly poor taste and never led to anything substantial. Number 8. Vince McMahon vs. God. And one of the top feuds in early 2006 was the feud between Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels. The two would clash at WrestleMania 22 in a no-holds-barred matchup.
The DX side, suck it! Degeneration! Oh my God!
However, this wouldn't put an end to their feud. In the weeks that followed, Vince along with Shane McMahon would take aim at HBK's faith, as he had just become a born-again Christian, and this involved some incredibly controversial comments and segments. One of the more notable segments included Vince visiting a church, and whilst at the church, Vince claimed that whilst God created Adam and Eve, he was responsible for creating Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin. He also claimed he had a better work ethic than God because Vince works on Sundays.
I'm like, may God strike me down as I stand here before you.
Now, this storyline would come to an end where HBK would team with God to take on Vince and Shane McMahon. The storyline was incredibly controversial, and the feud with HBK and Vince could have continued without including HBK's religious values.
What do you think now, God? Look at it.
Number 7. Tim White wants to end his life. In late 2005, WWE began a new storyline with former referee Tim White, which would capture his attempts to end his own life. White's WWE career came to an end in 2002 when he was legitimately injured during a Hell in a Cell match between Triple H and Chris Jericho. He would make a return at WrestleMania 20, but sadly once again suffer an injury. Now the idea behind this storyline was for it to sell the upcoming Hell in a Cell match between Randy Orton and The Undertaker, but all it did in reality was draw criticism and backlash. At the 2005 Armageddon pay-per-view, White would be interviewed by Josh Matthews, where he revealed that the Hell in a Cell had ruined his life. He then proceeded to take a gun and would fire the gun off screen, and it appeared as if White had just ended himself.
Tim, Mr. White, please don't do that. Come on, please, stop. Don't.
But just over a month later, it would be revealed that this was a failed attempt. For whatever reason, WWE decided to continue the storyline, and WWE.com would upload videos of Matthews interviewing White just before he was about to end his life in other attempts. Now the segments eventually stopped mainly due to fan backlash, but why they were ever considered in the first place is a big question that pretty much remains unanswered.
Alright, you take it, Mr. White, whatever.
Number 6. Piggy James. The top storyline in the women's division in 2009 was a storyline which involved Layla and Michelle McCool belittling and mocking Mickie James's weight.
Here and oink, there and oink, everywhere.
The storyline was controversial, as WWE had a Be a Star anti-bullying campaign running at the time, and a storyline of this nature seemed really out of place. This went on for months and months, and WWE would even produce segments which involved Layla and Michelle in pig costumes to try and humiliate Mickie even further. According to Mickie, it was a hard storyline to be involved in, and she discussed this on the Ring the Bella podcast.
You know, it was hard in the moments, and I think it was hard for everyone, like, in order to do it. There would be times where it's like, oh, I think this might be a little too far. But I will say, the end goal was to get Michelle and Layla over as monster heel, and I think it was very successful in that retrospect. And I think that for a generation of people, especially now with like speaking out and anti-bullying and all of these things, it's given people the power of their voice, because words are so powerful.
Number 5. Jinder Mahal's racism.
Oh, the Colossus! The Colossus, you got him! Do we have it? You're kidding me! You're kidding me!
Jinder Mahal winning the WWE title in 2017 was without question one of the most shocking moments in modern WWE. Now this was because Jinder had been a jobber for virtually his entire career, and he went from this established role to WWE Champion in just a space of a month. One of Jinder's main rivals during his reign as WWE Champion was Shinsuke Nakamura. The feud is mostly known for one infamous promo, a promo which received so much backlash that WWE were forced to release an official statement. In the promo, Jinder would make several racist comments towards Nakamura and Japanese people. He would claim that all Japanese people look the same, and he would mock the Japanese accent, and even decided to compare Nakamura to Mr. Miyagi from the Karate Kid movies. Number 4. The exploitation of REID Flair. Now, on the Raw before Survivor Series in 2015, Paige and Charlotte Flair would sign a contract for their upcoming match for the Divas title. This was when the storyline took an uncomfortable turn. In a promo exchange between the two, Paige would mention how Charlotte's baby brother didn't have much fight in him.
Charlotte, you're wrong, sweetheart. Cause your little baby brother, he didn't have much fight in him, did he?
Oh, come on!
Now the reason for his controversy is that Charlotte's real-life brother Reid Flair sadly passed away from an overdose in 2013. The inclusion of Reid in the storyline received widespread backlash, and it was reported that Ric Flair himself had zero idea what the WWE were planning to do to exploit his son in this manner. The backlash was so severe that they were forced to change the plans for the storyline, and Reid would not be mentioned in this capacity ever again. Number 3. Kurt Angle harasses SHARMELL. Now on paper, Kurt Angle vs Booker T sounds like a fantastic feud. However, when the two former world champions feuded in 2005, they decided to incorporate an inappropriate element to the storyline.
Booker, I want to have with your wife. I'm talking, you know, that kind of bestiality. The
storyline was that Angle would begin to harass SHARMELL and do things with her. Now, the storyline didn't last too long and was dropped rather quickly. According to Angle himself, the storyline made him incredibly uncomfortable and he claims it was a weird road for WWE to go down. Number 2, Big Boss Man steals the Big Show's father's casket. The Attitude Era was filled with controversial storylines, and one of them at the time was the Big Boss Man stealing the casket of the Big Show's deceased father. This infamous segment took place during a feud between the Boss Man and the Big Show over the WWE title in late 1999. During this time, WWE ran a storyline which involved the Big Show's father passing away. This was an aim to get the Big Show over as a babyface. The angle involved the actual funeral, but as respectful as this could have looked, the Big Boss Man would then appear and hook the Big Show's father's casket to the back of his police car. Boss Man then proceeded to drive off with the casket trailing behind. And they went one step further when Big Show attempted to jump onto the casket but awkwardly fell off it. The segment did little to help Big Show's babyface run, and the segment was classed as tasteless by many. And number 1, Vince McMahon threatens The Undertaker's wife. The Survivor Series 2003 would act as the 13th anniversary of The Undertaker's WWE debut. To mark the occasion, they would book The Undertaker to face off against WWE Chairman Vince McMahon in a Buried Alive match. This would act as the send-off for the American Badass character, and The Undertaker would take a 4-month hiatus following the match, eventually returning as the Dead Man at WrestleMania 20. To build to the match, Vince would cost The Undertaker the title at No Mercy 2003, and in the weeks that followed, Vince gradually got more and more built up with anger from the idea that he was going to face The Undertaker in a match. During the build, WWE would produce an infamous angle which involved Vince backstage with Paul Heyman. In the segment, Vince threatened to have terrorists burn down The Undertaker's house. Following that, Vince actually threatened to have The Undertaker's wife raped by a biker gang whilst The Undertaker watched on.
Terrorists are gonna burn down The Undertaker's house. His wife, she's gonna be raped by a motorcycle gang right in front of The Undertaker.
It was unbelievable that Vince wanted this in the script for his show, and it was seen by many fans as a step too far. The feud was already heated enough, and this additional element wasn't needed to further the storyline. But there you have it, folks. 10 times WWE just went too far. There's definitely more for a part 2, so let us know if you want one in the comments down below. As always, I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.